You know, we go to a lot of railroad museums, and you probably do too. And you probably notice that there are two obligatory things that are in every single railroad museum you visit. It's mandatory, almost like it's in the Constitution of the United States. Railroad museums must have a China car, showing the China from the golden age of railroad dining, and they also have to have an RPO car, Railway Post Office. We've got both, and this is our RPO car. RPO stands for Railway Post Office. A Railway Post Office car was run by the Postal Service of the United States government. And postal business was very important to the railroads. They carried a lot of it. They got paid well for it. In fact, when the U.S. Postal Service stopped using trains to haul mail, that was pretty much the death knell for the passenger service, because those were faster trains, and that's where everybody wanted their mail delivered on time. They usually went on the passenger trains in a car just like this, an RPO car. This RPO car in the Lake Superior Railroad Museum in Duluth, Minnesota is number 1447. It was built by the Pullman Company in 1914, and it served on the Northern Pacific Railway. It was similar to many cars of the era, and this one is now preserved at the Lake Superior Railroad Museum, and I'll show you how it works. This is where the mail was handled by the Postal Service employees who worked on the RPO car. Mail would come in, it'd be laid out on tables like this. There would be rubber stamps, and each envelope would get stamped. And then it needed to be sorted. So the postal worker would come over here. Each one of these bins had a name on it for a different city along the route. As the train kept moving, they kept sorting mail for each city. And when one of these was filled up with all the letters that were going to, let's say, Brainerd, they would take them out, and then they'd throw them in one of these bags and get ready to ship them on the way. Imagine doing all this while the train is moving, and not slowly either, and then doing it with a bunch of guys in here hustling and jostling each other, trying to get some space to get their job done. It was interesting work. Once they got all the mail into a bag and loaded it up, it was ready to be delivered. Keep in mind now, these are express trains. They don't stop at every station. Your town might be too small for a railroad stop. So then, of course, they would just take the bag and throw it out the door. How would they pick up mail? Well, that was an interesting feat. They would have one of these big hooks. The big hook had a large pole in it. They would pull that down, and as they went through the station, it would hook that bag, just like you see here, and bring it inside, and that would be the fresh mail coming in to be sorted, and then it would be dropped off at other stations along the way. It's obligatory. Every railroad museum needs a China car and an RPO car. Railroad museums are really, when you think about it, just a collection of stuff. And nothing really happens at a railroad museum until someone tells somebody else their train story. One of my favorite train stories has to do with this RPO car. I might have been executive director here about 30 seconds one afternoon, and I came back from someplace, and on my desk was a handwritten note. And it said, "Dear Executive Director." They didn't even know who they were leaving it for. They left it at the gift shop, and it ended up on my desk. My mother and I were visiting your train museum this weekend, and we were in the post office car. And she told me something I never knew before, that my father worked on one of these cars. In fact, that's how they met. She was the daughter of a station agent somewhere along the line, and he worked in the RPO car. And every day, when the train came by, her dad would send her out on the platform for the mail to be dropped off as the train went by. One day, the train stopped. And my dad got out, walked down on the platform, and introduced himself to my mom. And that started their relationship, which led to their marriage, which led to our whole family. Dad is gone now. Mom is in her 80s. And that story would have been lost to our family history had we not toured your car and she told me her train story. These train stories continue each and every day. Pass along to your friends and neighbors where you saw them and how to get them. And as always, until this crazy time is over, do your part. Wash your hands, cover your mouth, keep that social distance. If you're sick, stay home. And have you noticed how everyone's a lot kinder these days? It's working. Let's take care of each other.